Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me here. It's a tough one to shorten the presentation right now, but I will try to do my best. So what we did and what I will show you today is I will introduce you that platform that we built, show you or tell you something about the aims, which technology we use to build it, what the recent status is, and what we are going to do next. So as an introduction, some of you might have seen that that there are some platforms were used, or sometimes it's just an informal way of how pathologists are communicating their diagnosis if they are a little unsure. So they met to the colleague next office, they ask a colleague in the next hospital nearby to assure their diagnosis, to get an information if they are right, or to include experts' knowledge of colleagues. That is mostly done on a local basis and on a very, well, let's say, basis where you have friends involved and don't know exactly maybe what the diagnosis is and how to find the best way to assure it, and that's why you are involving other people. In the last years, several people started to use different types of platforms because of the lack of freely available solutions for that, to invite other people to comment on their cases and give recommendations. Things like social media platforms have used for this. So there are certain Facebook groups, there are Twitter groups, close Facebook ones, of course, where people really share patient data, sometimes anonymized, sometimes not. So it's a little bit of a problem because of data privacy issues. And this is growing, and the information that we got, because we talked to a lot of users of these platforms, are, well, they just don't have anything which they could use properly on a free basis. So that's why we started to create something which not only removes these data privacy issues, but also allows the inclusion of whole slide images and annotations and describe the cases in a proper and standardized way. So what we wanted to do is then to create some kind of web-based platform to foster the collaboration on a national, but also on an international level. We wanted the users to be able to describe and illustrate the cases on an intuitive basis using forms and wizards. We wanted to provide a possibility to add different types of data, whole slide images, but also clinical reports, macro images, and all of those that you need to describe a case properly. We wanted to assign questions for cases to dedicated people, to dedicated experts, but also open them to the community of the platform. We wanted to make it available to discuss the findings, get comments, suggestions from other people interactively, and to stay informed, of course, about the status of your case. So have you got answers to your question? Are there, for those who worked on that case, have there been updates to the case, etc. So what we then did is that we first, of course, reviewed what was there in the past. And some of you might have seen systems like UICC, TPCC, which more or less died 10 years ago because of several problems of that platform. But it's just an example. Mainly the problem of those platforms were that they were not intuitive enough, that people, to access those platforms, it was a little too complicated and too time-consuming to put your cases in there, that you had to wait too long to get answers, and that's why those systems died. So we tried to get up with those problems of these systems and created a very intuitive and short workflow to define your case and to illustrate your case. So we defined the core features, select minimum required data for a case description with interviews of different pathologists from our institute, but also from overseas. We defined workflows and the user interfaces to make sure that it's really intuitive to work with this. And we evaluated different kind of frameworks and technologies for the implementation, because of course we didn't want to start over from scratch. So what we, on a technical basis, more or less used are different frameworks that are available. Some of them have already been mentioned here in the last presentations. So things like OpenSlide, Ortang as a PACS system, but also for viewing the whole slide images, we used OpenLayers. We used Docker for distributing the different components of the system. For the communication, we used JSON and REST interfaces, and the main platform is based on the PHP basis using Symfony. just to show you some details, I mean, of course, I don't want to go, and that's probably one of the slides I'm going to skip a little, show you something about the infrastructure. So it's a highly distributed infrastructure. All subsystems are in dedicated Docker containers, so we can easily deploy them onto different systems. The idea especially was behind this, that we wanted to, for example, make it available for the users to, for example, host their PACS systems with their host slide images locally and not upload the images, all images, to a centralized platform. So it is possible to have a distributed PACS system within that platform, and you can host your host slide images, for example, in your institution. People access it from outside, but you don't have to upload the gigabytes of data all the time if you want to make a host slide image available. And of course, we also add an annotation server, which is capable of dealing with millions of annotations, so you can even include their image analysis results for cell nuclei and attach them to these host slide images. So all of this is possible. And that's more or less like this. So this is the annotation service, which we are going to develop even further, and hoping that we can work with the DICOM working group even more to get this into the DICOM standard in a few months, or hopefully by the end of the year or next year. So that's why we are promoting this structure, because we are seeing, and I think that's what we have also seen here in the last days, that annotation, we will get more and more annotation data to host slide images, and at the moment there is no proper solution how to store annotation data, especially those that have been created by image analysis on a proper basis within a PACS system. So what I'm going to do now is I will show you where we are at the moment. So the website is up and running. We are having most of the features that are relevant for starting with reporting cases already implemented, and they are in the testing phase with several international users at the moment. So what you mainly have is you can create a new case, you can list your cases, you can see reference cases, so those which other people have referenced, where other people have referenced you according to your profile. That you should give your opinion on this. You get notifications for everything that happens to your cases, or when cases have been assigned to you. You have some information about who is on this platform, which are the teams, and so on. Here I'm showing you, just to get an idea how easy it is to really put a question into that system for a certain case. I'm showing you the few steps of the wizard which you need to get through to get your case into the system. And mainly in this one, you only have to add the short information and the question. All the other things are optional. You can add them. Sometimes you don't have them, so of course you don't need to add them. And of course, the topic, you have to select a topic to assign the case to a proper audience or to a certain expert. In the next case, you are able to upload additional data like images, host slide images, radiology images, laboratory data, or whatever files you want to add. And in the third step, you are simply able to name people you want to address this case to, or say make it available to everyone, open it to the public of the platform, and ask for their recommendation. You are even able to add a priority and a due date, but it's not required. And then you are ending up in these different tables, as I shown before. So you have your own cases, those that you are referenced, or the list of all cases, which you can also order and then answer the cases directly. So, and this is how a case finally then looks like. So you have a side-by-side view of the image data on the left, and of all the textual and metadata on the right side. So here you have different tabs on the right side, the basic data which we saw in the first form. You have the files attached to that case, and you also have the possibility to discuss interactively on a thread-based manner the questions that are arising or the recommendations that are given from other authors. And you can of course also add annotations, as I said, to that case. You can describe things, you can jump to a certain annotation. So a host slide image viewer, a proper one, is also in this system as well. You can enlarge the viewer to have it full screen, or you can also have the discussion full screen. So it's quite flexible how you want to use it finally. And as an outlook, and this is my last slide, It's already on the web. As I said, we are in the beta phase with selected international users because also we wanted to test and enhance the system according to the feedback of them. We are still implementing some additional features, but this is more or less finished now. And the next steps are that we are changing the system, the way we are hosting the system. At the moment, it's on an Amazon cloud, but we will move it back inside to the Charité infrastructure, and later it should be maintained within the European Society. We want to go fully public by the end of May, so you can even go now to that website and register there and test it out. We are happy if we are receiving feedback from you. Nevertheless, it's more on a beta in a beta state at the moment. And of course, the major goal is to build an active and international community and to get rid of those false uses of Facebook and other social media platforms. Next features are things like invitation process, which we are already working on, and it's going to be finished by the end of April. Private messages, we want to add more whole slide images formats that are not only those that are available via OpenSlide, but even more. We want to have the full integration of ORTANK, and that's more or less a midterm goal. We want to make it even easier for you as a pathologist to put your cases in, because we want to have interfaces to LIS systems so that you have just a button within your LIS system where you can say, please put that case into our platform and assign it to someone, and then you get the feedback from within the system. Well, then that's it. Thank you very much for your attendance, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much. That was fascinating, actually, because there are quite a few of us doing similar things around the world. Any questions? Quick questions, if we can, please. Okay. Can I ask you a little bit about what you do with the copyright problem? Because you're putting these things out routinely. Is there a copyright issue, and how have you managed that?
Well, it's the major issue in general. There is of course a copyright issue. So we are not making any downloads of the information inside this platform available. So if you add whole slide images, if you add macroscopic images or whatever, you are not able to download them from the platform. You can of course make screenshots. Well, that's simply not possible to avoid. But I think the major idea about this is the process, the final process, how you get onto that platform. At the moment, you can just register because we are on in a beta phase. But in the future, you will have an invitation-only process. This means you only get into the platform with two restrictions. One is you have to get an invitation from someone who is already at the platform or from the society, and you will get checked if you are a practicing pathologist. So you have to provide your affiliation data and even a certificate that you are a pathologist, and then you get access to this platform, so that we avoid that we have any people there who are not supposed to be on such a platform and have access to medical data. The final thing that we don't want to have patient names in that platform, of course, is something where we ask the users to take care of. So, of course, as soon as we get the information that there is a report which contains a name, we are able, as the maintainers for that platform, to inform the author of that case and even to remove it directly. But we are, of course, requesting also the users, please make sure that you add no identification data to that platform.
Thank you very much. Thanks. One last very quick question at the top there. Thanks. Up there. Okay, sorry, Jason. I wasn't looking the right way.
Sorry about that. Thank you for a fascinating talk, and it's very useful stuff. But we know that, I know from my previous work that German Diabetics Research Institute and Austrian Diabetics Research Institute, I briefly had a communication with them. They have a lot of data, including histopathology data available, and they tend to want to share it. So would your platform talk to these people as well and get that data available?
Well, that's why I said we really thought a lot about how to distribute that platform. And of course, all the metadata, we are talking about not much data, so it's easily to store it in a central way. What counts finally is the whole slide image data. And even if you have especially when you have large slide collections or cases with, let's say, 20 stains or something, or at least 20 different slides or even more, then it's some kind of a problem to host all of this centrally if you have hundreds of users. So, of course, we have to solve that. And that's why we came up with the idea to have a distributed PACS system. So this means if you are some of those power users who are really having a lot of cases, you want to use it on a large base. You also don't want to upload gigabytes or even terabytes of cases to a central platform. You want to store them locally in your hospital, but even though make it available, because as you probably know, for viewing a case, you don't need to access the entire image data, but only those sections those field of views that you are actually reviewing. So it's much more effective to store the whole slide image data locally and then make it accessible. And that's why we put all those PACS system stuff into a Docker container, which is easily to deploy locally. You just have to deploy the Docker container, and then it's automatically connecting to the central platform, and it's available for everyone. So yes, it is would be a solution.